So team, let's start. Very good morning to all those who are here right now, and very good morning to Mittal, our resource person. Welcome. And I especially even welcome, as just now we spoke with Dr. Vijaya Sagar. So, and all the students team from Symbiosis Law School. Mittal, we are main placed in Pune. The Symbiosis International University is in Pune, and our campus in Pune, which has 350 acres of huge land, which
Wow.
even have different kind of habitats in 350 acres. We have water body, we have dry deciduous forest patch, though it is fragmented, but whatever few in that few fragments are very biodiversity rich, so that we will take on later. I'll discuss with you even in person. Then we have a scrubland kind of plateau area also at the highest elevation in our campus. As 350 acres is area, elevation is 550 meters is our water body, and at 780, 790 is our meters is our high scrubland plateau area. And in
Oh,
between, various habitats are, they are placed. So I have a lot of scope and as well as students to document birds, mammals, reptiles, and we are completely blown away in last 4 years what we are seeing, and till today some or other new species we are seeing in the campus, and we are getting it to document. So this is a short brief about our campus biodiversity. About birds, we have around 135 species documented in the campus, and it's in the campus. Surrounding areas there will be more.
yeah.
So it's a fantastic documentation. We have a field guide named Symbiosis, a Fauna of Symbiosis International University. So in the field guide, we have 200 species documented, and students and employees, they use it as a field guide when they walk around in the campus. And
That's
about
cool.
students, we have around 30 to 35 colleges under Symbiosis umbrella. In Pune, there are some 19 to 20 institutes, and they are spread in various parts in Pune. So this is Lavare campus where university is placed. There are 10 colleges, 10, and other colleges are spread across in various areas in Pune. And then there are campuses in Nasik, Noida, Nagpur, and Hyderabad, Bangalore. So there will be few students who will be joining all across from various parts of the states. And all these students today who are joining, they are basically members of Biodiversity Club. So in the start of the academic year, I introduced them to the Biodiversity Club, the activities which we do under Biodiversity Cell, and those who are interested, they join us. Till last year, the students who are based in Pune, or especially those 10 colleges on the campus, we always go around for normal nature walk as well as scientific bird documentation or reptile documentation with
Fantastic.
me, as well as experts like you. They also used to come on the campus and used to do this biodiversity documentation along with them. Since the COVID-19 has struck, everyone is at home, and this new thing pop up, Sunday special session. And actually it is a good opportunity. People like you, they have started interacting from again all across in various from various states, because pehle nahi to itna hamara
Correct.
we
Huh.
couldn't get that kind of platform or to
True.
meet experts like you. So Pune के नजदीक जितने हैं, और एक दो टाइम जैसे रोहन चक्रवर्ती had come to our campus, और ऐसे एक दो बार ही हुआ था. Otherwise all around Pune people, they used to come and interact with students. So this is the best thing. And so with this, I welcome you to
Thank
our
you.
platform, and our team, Symbiosis Law School, who has been handling this session for the today. So I'll request Sahajpreet to officially welcome you for this session.
Thank you.
And Dean sir, I am so happy again. I really say thank you to you for joining us. So Sahajpreet, you also welcome sir also.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Shilpa ma'am, for the introduction. Welcome, Mithil ma'am and Dean sir. A very good morning to one and all present over here. As we're all aware, the Biodiversity Cell Symbiosis International University has been conducting online sessions on wildlife conservation and related subjects of biodiversity since September 2020. Wildlife experts from all across India join and interact with students every week. Today, we have with us Ms. Mithil Gala, who's currently working as the project manager of Bird Count India, Bangalore. Ma'am took the plunge in the field of wildlife and conservation in the year 2008 after several years of working at a corporate job. Since then, she has worked as an education officer at Agumbe Rainforest Research Station in Agumbe, Karnataka, on visitor engagement and conservation at Madras Crocodile Bank in Chennai, and as a chief naturalist at an eco lodge near Ranthambore National Park, Rajasthan. In this session, ma'am will be throwing light on how an enjoyable hobby like bird watching can help facilitate scientific understanding and conservation of birds. She will also be enlightening us on how photographs uploaded by bird watchers can assist scientists answer some of the most interesting questions, such as that of abundance, migration, and distribution trends. I welcome you, ma'am, and you can take over.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sachi. So I'll share my screen. I'm going to keep my video off so that if anybody has poor network connection, it might be helpful. And we can take questions after the talk. So while I'm doing the presentation, if anybody has any question, you can just type it in the chat box. Yeah. So 1 minute. I'm a bit slow in finding things.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
Let me know if you can see my. Okay, can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. So
you can start. Yeah.
Yeah. Video. Is my screen visible?
Yeah. Yes. Now it is.
Okay. So thank you all for setting aside time to join in this discussion. And today I'll be talking about how bird watching has contributed to science and conservation, and also how we can enrich our birding experience. A great number of people across the world and in India are getting interested in bird watching. Today, I won't talk more about birding as an activity, but we'll focus instead how, through this hobby, bird watchers have been helping research and conservation of birds. Let's start by examining what is that we bird watchers do. We go out, we watch birds, we also photograph them and sometimes going to extreme lengths. And note down what we see. Here are some examples of bird watchers, how they make notes. Sometimes a sketch is made of a bird he or she has been seeing. And unknowingly, we are collecting valuable information. As you can see in the screen here, in the notes, bird watchers often make notes of where they saw the bird, what was the date, what was the time, what was the weather condition like. What if all of this documentation is added on a common platform? One such free platform is eBird, which is an online database of bird observations, providing scientists, research, and bird watchers with real-time data about bird distribution and abundance. It was created by Cornell Lab of Ornithology in the United States, and today many countries are using this platform to record their bird observations. And in many ways, it acts like an online digital diary where bird watchers can record what birds they see, where they see, maintain a live list, and upload their photographs and bird calls. Uploading your observations on eBird app is very simple and straightforward. Once you download the app from Play Store or App Store, you have to install the India Bird Pack. When you're out birding, just open the app and it will automatically take you to the date. It will automatically show you the dates, time, and it will also record the GPS location of the place where you're birding. Once you click on Start List, the app will show you a list of species that are likely to be found in that location. So based on the GPS coordinates, the app will find the species that have been previously reported and it will give you a likely list. And all you have to do is enter the birds that you see and add the count next to it. Once you're done birding, you can click on Submit. Shilpa ma'am, is my screen and the top, is it synchronized or?
Yes.
There is no delay. Okay.
Yeah.
If you want to add photographs or sound recordings or any editing that you wish to do to the checklist that you have submitted through the app, you can do it through the web portal. And this is how a checklist with photographs and audio recordings will look like. So basically, app, you can put the list and later on you can create a multimedia, make it a multimedia list by adding photos through the web portal. Now I'm going to just quickly take you to the website of eBird, how the web portal looks like. Can all of you see the screen, the website?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So when you log into the eBird website and once you sign in with your eBird username and password, you will see a screen like this. So now I am on the India portal. The global portal is ebird.org. But since we are in India, we go through ebird.org/India. And when I go to my eBird, so this is how my stats will look like. I have been uploading my bird observations in eBird since 2013, and it looks very nice and neatly organized. These are the number of species I have seen so far. Over 3,000 lists I have uploaded, and then I can further look in which year, what month, where I have seen how many species, etc. So everything is well managed and organized. So 2006, when I started birding, I used to make notes after every trip. Unfortunately, some of my notes got lost while I was shifting houses, and some of them got eaten by termites. So all that data for 5 years of my traveling trips have been just lost. So thankfully, thanks to eBird, I don't have to worry about that. Okay, so coming back to the presentation. Since 2014, a large number of Indian birders have come together on this platform. And if you look at the map, you would notice there are no political boundaries drawn here. And all the yellow that you see on the map are bird observations uploaded by bird watchers. So far, 20,000 birders have uploaded more than 15 million observations and covering all states and union territories in India. These also include observations from many bird watchers who have uploaded their 30-40-year-old observations from their notebooks to this platform. And you would notice how the southern India, especially Kerala, how rich it is in terms of bird watching, how many people have uploaded birders, how many birders have uploaded their observations on eBird. Now, 10 years ago, or even 5, 6 years ago, if somebody would have asked us what is the most common bird in India, we all might have different answers to it. Some would say common myna, some would say pigeon, but we never had concrete data to say what is the most abundant bird in India. Now, this map here is based on data uploaded of a 4-day event called Great Backyard Bird Count. It's a global event that happens every year in February. And this is last year's Great Backyard Bird Count data. So what we tried to find out is, based on this 4-day data, what is the most abundant species in India? And we made this map, and arbitrarily it is divided into 7 regions. And if you would notice that common myna is the most commonly reported species. So these are the top 5 common species, and common myna is there in all regions except the west. It is there in almost all regions. So this can give us an idea that the most common species in India in the month of February is common myna. I'm going to talk about some of the aspects of bird watching and also bird observations. Now, distribution. It is surprising to know that even for a large and easily identifiable species like this black-headed ibis, no two field guides agree on the geographic range. So on the left-hand side, on the left-hand side map, this is a screenshot of the field guide in birds of Indian subcontinent, and on the right side is the Ripley field guide, and you will see how both maps are so different when it comes to the distribution of this species. But if bird watchers' observations are plotted on a map, then this is how the map will look like. So all the purple grids that you see, all the purple small squares that you see are checklists uploaded by bird watchers, and these checklists are those lists which have black-headed ibis in it. On eBird, the map will look like this. So again, all the purple squares that you see are checklists that are reporting black-headed ibis. And in field guide, you just look at the map, you can't go beyond that. But on the eBird website, for each species, you can zoom in and you will see this orange and blue balloons. These are all checklists uploaded by bird watchers. And you can further zoom in. And when you zoom in, a checklist will appear. You can see who has uploaded, where it is uploaded from, and whether it has any photos or not. So this goes beyond field guides. The other thing in field guide is a lot of these terms, resident, local movement, passage migrant, all these are terms, but it varies from region to region. Again, a passage migrant can be a migration of a passage migrant can be a passage migrant in northern India, but may not be the same in southern India. But in eBird, you can look at the seasonality, and you can also look at the patterns of seasonal movements to a greater degree. So you can see fine details of migration timing for any region, for any species in the country. So this is a screenshot of a bar chart, a seasonality chart from Odisha, and you will notice that the fulvous whistling duck, the first species in the row, it shows how uncommon it is. So mostly winter is when you get to see them more, and then April onwards, the observations, the sightings start going down. Lesser whistling duck, which is a resident in Odisha, it is seen throughout the year. So all these things in the eBird website, you can actually go to a specific region and find out these details. And all these has been only possible because of the data, because of the observations that bird watchers have uploaded. Migration is a very interesting topic and also least understood. Now, this GIF shows two species, greenish warbler, which is shown in green, and sorry, the green warbler, which is shown in green, and the greenish warbler, which is shown in purple. So the green warbler breeds somewhere in Western Asia, and the greenish warbler has a much larger breeding range. So the greenish warbler breeds in a larger area. It also breeds, some of the population also breed in the Himalayas. But both species come down to India in winter. So if you look at the moving graph, sorry. If you look at the moving graph, which is from January to December, you would notice that both species, both these small sparrow sites, brown gray warblers, they may not look very interesting to many birders, but amazingly, they spend a very small amount of time in their own country, in their own breeding grounds during summer. And in Indian winters, they spend most of the time in India. So if anything happens to our country, we don't know what will happen to these species. Where will they go during winter season? Similarly, Amur falcon, which is a very cute looking small bird of prey. This one also has an amazing migration journey. It passes through India in large numbers, especially through Northeast India. So in October, November, they will be seen in large numbers. They come from central China, northern China, and then they start moving through India through Northeast, and then they cross the Arabian Sea and go to Africa, where they will spend the winter months. So imagine for a falcon from coming from China, going through India, but crossing Arabian Sea, and it is amazing because there are cyclones, there are cyclone storms, and they fight everything. And I don't know what happens to a lot of them when they get caught in cyclones and things like that. But they come to Africa, and again back they make another journey, crossing the ocean, crossing the Arabian Sea through India. Again they go to China for breeding. And so all these purple circles that you see in this screen and the previous screen are observations of bird watchers that have reported Amur falcon. And in the moving graph, you can see how they migrate twice in a year.
So, Mittal, because of only photographers or laypersons, simple bird watchers, because of this only this thing got possible.
Yes.
Of such a in detail documentation, right?
Yeah, that's right. So towards the end,
it's fantastic.
Yeah. So towards the end, after my talk, if you visit our Bird Count India website, you will see very interesting migration maps, very similar to this. And as you said, Shilpa, it has been only possible to make such migration maps because of the data that we have today.
Fantastic. Because we usually think that only scientists and researchers who are, always all the time are doing research on birds, they only should are able to do these kind of, data with them.
Yeah.
But with such a huge data with just only citizen science help, it is fantastic. It is mind-blowing actually.
And all this data, Shilpa, we can download it ourselves, and we can play around with it. We can come up with our own interesting questions. This data is freely available to download. All you have to do is when you are downloading the data, the form will ask you why you need the data, and then within a day or two, you will get all the data that you want.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
So, now I want to talk a little bit about how photographs can enrich your experience on the platform, and also how they can be useful to other bird watchers. So for this, I will take you through the eBird website again. So we go through the home page again. Okay, so can you see the website?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so I clicked on explore. Now I go to search photos.
Now we can see.
Okay. Now you can see the photographs that have popped up on the screen.
We can see explore species, explore regions. Now we can see photos. Yes, species.
Okay. So when bird watchers upload their photographs to the eBird, it becomes a part of a unique eBird and Macaulay library. And can you see the Macaulay library screen?
Not yet. Yes.
Showing?
Your wildlife media archive since 1929.
Yes. So Macaulay Library is the world's most popular scientific library that stores wildlife media, photos, videos, sound recordings, and it has sound recordings and media, photographs, videos of reptiles, amphibians, mammals, marine mammals, birds. So when you contribute your observations to eBird, it automatically becomes a part of this Macaulay Library. And you don't have to worry about your hard drive being crashed and photographs being lost, or your computer going kaput and you lost all your photographs. But by uploading it in eBird or Macaulay Library, it is a safe archive for your photos and you can download anytime you want. And so this is one part how your photographs can be stored safely. Then the second thing is going back to the eBird website. Let me know once the site is open. You should be able to see a brown fish owl on my screen.
It's gone. Yes, now we can see.
Okay. So again, when you upload photographs to your checklist, you can also rate your photographs. There is a rating of 1 to 5. You can also ask your friends to rate your photographs, and the highly rated photographs will appear on the home page. So this is again very, very interesting, because if you are a good photographer and if you can take good bird photos, including your social media channels, you can also think of uploading it on eBird, so that thousands of birders in India and outside India, when they open the eBird India website, they'll be able to see your photo on the homepage. I find it very fascinating.
Yeah, I absolutely unaware about this. Though I'm using eBird since 2015, I was not aware about this.
Yeah, and then the other thing is when you click on explore and you see explore species. Let me know if you can see.
Yes, we can see.
So any species that you type in the explore species, again, your photos will come here with some information also. So this is another advantage of adding photos to your list. It becomes part of the species page. And I'm sorry, can you all see the woodpecker screen that I just that is open?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I'm sorry, I'll be toggling between couple of websites and screens, so please bear with me. Now, this is the eBird Media Gallery. All the photos that birdwatchers upload, as I said, they become part of eBird and Macaulay. Now, you can find some interesting things. Say, for example, students, biodiversity club students want to come up with some project related based on the photographs or sound recordings that have been uploaded on eBird. Now, this example is of the variation in plumage of male paradise flycatchers. So if someone wanted to see whether these moths, the rufous and white moths, whether they vary across its age or range, they can examine the photos and the corresponding location and go from there. So you can click on each photos, find out where it has been uploaded from, which location it is uploaded from, which time of the year. So, you know, interesting questions you can come up just based on the photos or the sound recordings. If there are certain species, for example, if you want to look at the Prinia plumage, whether Prinia in Northeast India, does the plumage looks very different than Prinia in peninsular India. So those kind of interesting things can be worked on. You can design your own project. You can even publish a short article, popular article. Going back to the explore page. Now I'm just talking about how your photos are helpful. There is something called illustrated checklist. Where do I find that? Oh, homepage. Okay, let me type Pune. And illustrated checklist. Let me know when you can see a screen which will have some bar charts and photos on the right hand side.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. So your photos, your best photos, are used to create illustrated checklist, which is like a digital bird guide for any hotspot or any place in the world. So for example, if I am traveling to Pune and I want to see what kind of birds are seen in Pune, I can just go to this digital checklist and it will show me all the species with photos. And photographers can also look at it and find out what photos are missing for which species, and then they can target those birds and get photos and then contribute to this digital checklist. Yeah, so it looks like Pune is very well bordered area. So most species should have photos, but if you're going to a new place, you can do some homework and you can see what birds need photos, and you can then plan your outing in that way.
Can you just enter right now striated here on here?
Yeah, sure.
Because very recently we saw a juvenile and an adult in our campus, so I was so thrilled.
Oh, nice. So this is the striated heron, and Shilpa, this is your photo. I mean, this is not your photo, but it says last seen 17th Feb by Shilpa.
Yes, yes.
Oh, let me just click on it. This is your checklist. Can you see it? Has it opened for you?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, I can see.
Yeah, yeah. This is our striated heron sightings. Yeah. So one of our SSP student, Mad Diversity Club member, he was with me thankfully on that day, though it was a bit far away, but
yeah. Yeah, these striated herons are common, but they are so shy and very not very easy to see.
Yeah, yeah. So Ebert was saying that it is a rare, yes, so photos add karo. Then somehow I got these two images.
Very nice.
Fantastic. Siddhant Gadekar. So I want to give his name because this is not images clicked by me. So how we can do, because it's now coming as a, so I have to share it with him and tell him to.
Yeah. If he's on eBird, then yeah, share. And if he was with you during that time, then share the list with him, and then he can upload his photos.
Yeah, right.
So each one, once you share the list, each of the shared person can tailor cut their own list. They can remove the species that they have not seen or add the species which they have seen and you have not seen. They can put photos, media. They can just tailor it the way they want.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so illustrated checklist. Oh, this interesting thing is, I don't know, Shilpa, if you have heard of Merlin Bird ID app.
Yes, recently I've got.
Yeah, so now there are apps for everything, and people are so used to using apps that very rarely people carry field guides. bird books when they are traveling. So there is a bird ID app, and it is fantastic app not only for beginner birders, experienced birders, amateur birders, but also for photographers. So all you have to do is again download the Merlin Bird ID app. It's a free app. Install the India Bird Pack. Now India Bird Pack the pack will have all the species that are seen in India. I think around 1300 species or so. And you can, wherever you're traveling, you can do some homework on the Merlin app. What are the species found there? And if you're a new bird watcher, and if you just know the basic things, for example, you saw a bird and you know that it was a sparrow-sized bird, or the size was between sparrow and a blackbird or a myna, then you click on that. It will ask you 2 questions. What are the colors you saw in the bird? What was the location? What was the bird doing? Whether it was on a tree, whether it was on the ground, whether it was swimming. And you answer those questions and it will give you a list of likely species. And you can choose from that what was the bird that you saw. So again, the photos that the AI uses to train the Merlin Bird AI can be your photos. So it's nice that when, same is with the call recordings. So when you go through Merlin Bird ID app and suddenly you will see that the Merlin Bird ID has used your photo or your call recordings, and it's really proud moment. I feel happy when I think for Black-Rump Flameback, they have used my call recording, which I recorded on my phone, and it is not a very good quality, but it is still, you can hear the woodpecker. And it's happy that so many bird watchers will be looking at that, listening to that call recording that I have uploaded. It is helping other birders also to get better and better at birding. So I talked a lot about data for us, and then we talked about migration, abundance, but how has it helped bird conservation? Can we know the trends in bird numbers? Are the numbers of certain species increasing or declining? Are some species being less reported now than 20, 30 years back? And what is their conservation status in India? By knowing this, we can think of what kind of conservation actions need to be planned in the future. So last year in February, 10 organizations came together to create a report called State of India's Birds, which provides some answers to these questions. So this report looks at the conservation status of 867 species using almost 10 million observations uploaded by bird watchers in eBird until May 2019. And the data also allows an investigation into the historical and current trends in Indian bird population, which was not possible earlier. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, 867 species.
Exactly. So based on whether species are declining, increasing or stable, both in long term and short term, and taking into account of their geographical range size, 101 species have been put in high conservation concern category, and then 300 plus in moderate concern and the rest in low. So if you combine the moderate and high concern numbers, 50% of India's birds are showing decline, which is really, really worrying. Some are showing high, but some are showing moderate. We don't know whether that moderate will in future go in high concern category. And I'll just share a couple of examples. For example, this is the white-rumped vulture. So a map of distribution of this vulture over the past 5 years shows that its once wide range has reduced a lot. So white-rumped vulture was a common vulture species across India, including cities. It was cited. However, the reporting frequency of this species in eBird has crashed since before 2000, and it closely matches, the decline closely matches with the BNHS's and RSPB's surveys. We all know that many vulture species in India have declined. However, the most worrying thing is that even in the last 5 years, the decline continues. With all the preventive measures that have been taken, the white-rump vulture is still on a steady decline. These patterns combined place this white-rump vulture in high concern category in the State of India's report. On the other hand, sparrows are doing very well. As you can see in the graph here, there is a steady increase. So all the stories that we've been hearing and newspaper articles that we've been reading that sparrows have declined through mobile towers, etc., etc. It is not entirely true. I agree that sparrows have declined in many cities. However, in countryside and rural areas, they are doing very fine. And you can see that there is an increase in their numbers. So people have been reporting sparrows from many places. Peafowl is also increasing, a national bird, and you can see in the graph that it is steadily increasing. And interesting part is that even in drier areas like Jaisalmer, northwest Rajasthan, and drier areas of Kerala, where peacocks were not reported earlier, but in the last few years, people have been reporting peafowl from these areas. So they are moving in other areas also. So that was all my talk about, and I'm going to quickly just talk a bit about Bird Count India and what it is all about. So Bird Count India, on our website, you will see a lot of articles, upcoming events, campaigns, profiles of bird watchers, and we have eBird monthly challenge. We have bird ID articles. So if you do get time, please go through the Bird Count India website. We also manage the eBird India portal. And Bird Count India is actually a partnership of many organizations, and we formal organizations, informal organizations, bird watchers, naturalists. We are in partnership with groups, birding groups, which are on Facebook and WhatsApp, and we work with all of these people together. So it's not a separate entity. We just work with everybody together, and we promote bird documentation through this common platform of eBird. So that was it. If you have any questions, please we can move to the questions now. And if you have any more questions after this talk, you can email us at skimmer@birdcount.in, or you can drop a message to Shilpa and we can take it forward. So that's it. Thank you.
So now platform is open for questions if anyone has. So students, you can open your videos and unmute yourself, and you can discuss, ask questions. So myself, as usual, I have so many questions. So anyway,
what is the format for upload of this photographs? Is it a JPEG or a raw file, or how big it should be?
So you can upload JPEG, and each size is, you can upload up to 10 MB data for each species.
10 MB, okay, 10 MB file.
That's quite enough. So.
Thank you.
So when you are uploading your photos, on the right-hand panel, it will show you the details, what is the maximum limit that you can add photos to, and it will show you some basic metadata that you can add.
Okay.
Hello, ma'am. Ma'am, I have a question, ma'am. Ma'am, we
Yes.
talked about the migratory birds and all these things, all the species. Ma'am, do we have something value attached to it? I mean, when we talked about it, that we want to save them, we want to conserve the biodiversity and all of that. So do we have some value attached to these species as well? That if they are not there, then this much amount of it we would lose in terms of revenue. I'm talking about in terms of ecosystems or biodiversity valuation.
I'm sure there must be some studies done to it, but I can't give you the number. But of course, ecosystem services will get affected, and of course, tourism will get affected. Birding is a very big tourism in India, and it will be very sad to live in a world where there are no birds around. So I think the most disappointing thing would be that. And you don't know once, and it's again a food chain, right? You don't know what will happen to the food chain once these birds are taken out from it.
No, ma'am. Actually, I'm talking about specifically some species, like if they are migratory birds or something, that they are not all the time here. They come in the this month of like in winters. So we have that any mechanism or any website like in eBird? Do we have that function that we can attach some value to it as well?
No, not yet.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
So, for example, now taking this discussion, uh, mm, in campus, we have a water body, Mittal, I told you. So,
Yes.
this water body is constructed in 2015 as a for consumption of human purpose, actually. Slowly, we restored it in a way of shallowing the banks and adding vegetation. Otherwise, it was just a tank-like structure. So now, in last 3-4 years, various birds started coming. So for the first time when Ruddy Shelduck arrived, it was like for us like, oh wow, and there were only 4 of them. Last
Wow.
year, there were we documented around 36 to 40 individuals. This
Yeah.
year, sadly, the level of the water did not decrease. Usually, in the month of February,
Yeah.
March, it goes down. But due to more number of students on the campus and increased,
Yeah. Footfall. Yeah.
demand, we did not allow our water body to go low water, and we start pumping more water from the nearby rivers, and it's always now full. So
Yeah.
this year, Ruddy Shelduck again came to 6 individuals from
Wow.
36.
Oh,
So
nice.
this kind of documentation, I really want to highlight, but still I'm not able to do that, in a scientific way. But that's where I'm going to come to you, and even I'll take help of Dean sir and those who are into birding and photography. That
Yeah.
how can I put up this data in a for conservation purpose or for in a study purpose. So we
Correct.
have a concrete data of saying that from 4 slowly, then 12, then 18 until 36, and again this year sharply it got declined. We don't know, देखने के बाद तो समझ में आता है because they don't have place to land. So
Correct.
that's maybe the reason, and if any other reason, I don't know, but
Yeah.
that's what I want to get it up. So let's see how can. So Amit, I think this kind of data will help again to understand the importance of habitat around us
Yes. Yes.
and the actions we do for ourselves or whatever development way and anything. So there is a lot of things to study to understand. It's not everything that in a one go we will understand everything. So we have to keep on doing our bit, whatever we can do.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
now as we have seen that if as an individual as well as well as the organizations as well, they do consider this economic valuation thing. So if we are able to attach some value to this species as well, then it will be more important, or the people will more
Yeah,
aware about it.
aware,
Yeah.
and not everyone look from the angle what biodiversity community
Yes, ma'am.
look into that. So
Yes,
yeah,
ma'am.
Mittal, we can or you can think on that level and guide us how we can pull all other people also and give some economic value to these things. Let's see.
Yeah. I'm sure there would be a team already working on it and publishing papers on it. But we want the data to be right now. The data should be as simple and as easy to
Yeah,
navigate for
yeah,
other bird watchers who are not from the scientific field,
yeah,
and it should give them that their them giving putting this data is so valuable for all the other things. So
Yeah, I understand.
I am not from a scientific background at all. I'm just a science graduate, and when the first time when I heard about citizen science, and I was so thrilled that me not being academic qualified, my data is still going to be useful for science. So that's one thing which I was really keen on, and that's what started that's what got me into contributing my data. So like you said, for biodiversity, Shilpa, there maybe on another topic or something, there should also be a session on how you can document insects, how you can document other things on campus through iNaturalist.
Okay, okay. That we haven't done yet.
Yeah. And we also have an organized, within NCF, we also have a team which is Season Watch, and they do tree monitoring. So with the climate change, how the phenology of tree, the fruiting, flowering is changing. So that is again a very interesting topic. So citizen science in India is becoming very popular. It just needs to be reached out in places like university, campus, where students, teachers are really interested.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thanks. We'll definitely look into this. And I must say that so many, charts and rounds and circles, and still it is so simple, and it's absolutely not boring. So otherwise, anyone can get like, oh, the big charts and this we see now, we like sing. But eBird has really made it wonderful experience, because I also have started using on phone just 2 months back.
Okay.
Otherwise, it always used to be on laptop, baad mein aake, with field guide in the hand and writing the notes and all. So, but I'm loving this app very much. Margin I haven't used yet, though I have on phone, because for me, identification is not that difficult, except some wobblers and raptors flying. Otherwise, that's why I use mostly field guide. But app on phone, it's doing wonderful work. So I really will request and ask each and every student should have this app, just like Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah. And I forgot to mention that we have more than 200 volunteers who actually review the eBird data. So every time your app says rare, uncommon, or the count is too high, it goes into a separate queue where we have these volunteer reviewers who look at the data, and if there is not enough documentation, they might reach out to you through email. That does not mean they are questioning your birding skills or what you have reported. They just want to maintain the accuracy. So 100 years from now, nobody should doubt that data. Your observation should stand the test of time.
That is again students and everyone, you should understand that it's not just we are like on Instagram, on Facebook, we added just to, that is also a good platform, but there we will get only wow and OMG and all those things. But here, when you are going to upload your photo and your observation, even though it's questioned in some point, like striated heron, they question me, but it's going to help us from now on, and they just made it sure that it is accurate. Yeah, it's really that way it's good. I really appreciate that you have that separate cell kind of thing, reviewers who review whatever we are adding up on the date on that platform. Yes, fantastic. So students, you can ask, otherwise I'll keep on talking on the same thing. So those who are birders, who go out with their big cameras and lenses, you have to have this app today onward on your phone and start uploading your data.
Yeah.
Viren Narvekar, are you there?
Yes, ma'am, I'm there.
हाँ, आज का सिंहगढ़ वैली का आपका डेटा आ जाना चाहिए.
I had one doubt. Suppose if I go to a location and I forget to start the checklist, once I come back, can I make a checklist for that particular location?
Yeah, you can do that. You can either use the eBird, do it to eBird website, or you can do it with the phone app. Only thing
Because
is,
in the phone, what happens is it uses my current location.
correct. But if
So
you know the location, you can just find the coordinates on map and you can add it to the when you are making the list.
So Viren, I never used phone app till last month. So I always used to come home and then on the laptop, I used to open up eBird website and then I have my account and there I would go on the location and it zooms out and then you can add your location like Sinhagad Valley or Tekdi or wherever you had gone. Definitely you can do that. If you are doing photography and you don't want to keep on adding, it's the best way if you do that. Means even if you are photographing and on location, if you can upload, it's best. But if you can't, you have to have means you can come back and add it on from the website on the laptop. Yes, but you must, which I have been doing since last many years.
So I will also share a few links, Shilpa, some links to the YouTube quick videos like tutorial videos and also some webinar recordings on how to use the app. And those lists you can share it with the students and they can go through it. When you are logging through the website, always try to do ebird.org/India so that all the information that you will see through the India portal will be India specific, whether they are maps, species, top rated photos and things like that.
Okay. I also want to ask, even a few of students may have this doubt. Like I am a birder. There are few bird watchers and photographers also. Not necessarily bird photographers, but wildlife photographers. But there may be few of these students today who are neither photographer, neither bird watcher, but they are just attending this session. And how a birding from their home in their backyard and just they are sitting having a cup of tea in the balcony and they saw 7-8 species, how that data also can be useful to that they should add up. What do you think about that?
So everything that you upload on eBird, whether it's 2 species or 3 species and all, it will get contributed to the database. And when analysis is done, say for example, State of India birds, a lot of these things are taken in consideration. How many minutes the checklist was, how many species were reported, which area they were reported, whether it is a complete list. Complete list is when you put efforts in birding, you know the start time, end time, and you have reported all the species that you saw and heard to the best of your ability with the counts. Those are complete lists. And incomplete lists are like you just focused on highlights. So for a bird photographer, if he's going someplace and just listing the birds that they photographed and not paying attention to the other birds around, then they have to make their list as incomplete list. So while submitting, the app will ask you, are you submitting all species you saw? So when you're just focused on certain species and leaving out other species in that area, then you have to say no. So these complete list, non-complete list are helpful. There is something called incidental list. For example,
Okay,
you're having a cup of coffee.
Sorry, I didn't know this. I
Yeah.
thought that you have to say yes only.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I'm in the balcony having coffee without a binocular and I saw some birds, birding was not my intention. I just happened to see it. I put it in the app as incidental list.
Okay.
Yeah. So incidental lists are not so much useful for scientific purposes. It is mainly for you. If I heard an owl in the night, I'll open my app and put it. I just want to record it because some birders want to record everything. So they will just record it as incidental. Complete list and non-complete list are useful for scientific analysis. Complete more, to a larger extent of analysis, they are used.
But why incidents are not used for scientific?
Because you are not putting any efforts. You just happen to see something while you were primary focus was something else.
Uh-huh. But if I had gone for some work and I see some rare bird,
Yeah.
then it's just one bird I saw.
So then in the best way to make it more valuable, Shilpa, just spend 3 minutes more and look for other birds also, and then make it a complete list. Because then you don't want it to be an incidental list, you want it to be used for a scientific purpose, then put some effort. Even a 3-minute effort is fine. And if you don't see any other birds in 3 minutes, that's also fine. But you can make that as a complete list.
Oh, okay, okay. So it's like in what category we put that observation.
Yes.
That is used in further analysis thing.
Yes, yes.
Okay. But all these things are available even on the website also when we do, because in the phone I think all these things pop up. But when I do on from laptop, all these things they don't come like incidental and completing.
No, so in the website, when you upload when you're submitting a list, it will first ask you to put the date, time, location, and then
Yes,
it will ask
yes,
you the protocol, whether it's traveling, stationary,
yes, yes,
incidental.
yes.
So all those things are first, you have to answer those things, then you enter the species list. On the app, you enter the species name first, and then towards the end, it will ask
Okay.
you.
Achha,
So app may what happens based, because when you start the app takes your GPS coordinates, and it will also tell you whether you are moving and birding, whether you are at one spot or birding. And if you put a bird and within less than a minute, if you submit, it will automatically take the incidental protocol.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Achha.
Anyways, the tutorial that I will share you has all these things in details.
Yeah,
So,
because I think like I have used app and some of them, so that's why I have so many questions. But maybe other students, they may be feeling boring or for the questions I'm asking.
yeah, they might get confused.
So I'll just I'll request all the students who are here today, even if you are not a birder, please upload eBird today, eBird India, and start using it. So you will understand, and this 1 hour what we have spent, it will really be a constructively thought later. So and then once again we ourselves we can meet and have a discussion that how was your experience and how did you like Viren just now shared his experience, so we can have that small session later amongst us.
Yeah. There is also Pune Bird Atlas, if anybody is aware, where the Pune city has been divided into many grids, and each grids are monitored by bird watchers in every season. They just started it last year.
Yeah. Pankaj Popad is doing that.
Yes.
Yeah. I wanted, means I am on that group, but I am very sorry I'm not doing anything with them.
No worries. You can always plan this something for your campus, similar kind of thing. But that's another discussion we can have later.
Yeah. ठीक है. So yes, any other? Dean sir, आपको कुछ पूछना है और? Ainik, आपको?
No, ma'am, I don't have any question. Right now, I don't have a camera, no, that's why it's very hard to capture birds in the perfect time. So after buying,
as I was saying, चाय का कप लेके आज शाम को बैठ जाओ बाहर. You are in West Bengal, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So you don't have an excuse that I don't go out. You have to do. That is a fantastic place to do.
Oh, West Bengal is amazing in terms of birding. So we, as I said, we coordinate with many bird watchers, and for every state, we have a group, eBirders of West Bengal, eBirders of Sikkim, or eBirders of Maharashtra. And West Bengal is the most active group. People are I'm so amazed by the kind of activity they have on the group. So if you don't have a camera, that's fine. You can just go on one of the walks that they organize, and it will be nice if you make a connection or
What group is that?
It's called Birdwatchers Society of West Bengal. They have a Facebook group also. I can share the link with you.
Okay.
And since this lockdown last year, a lot of people got into bird watching. Even people who were new to it, they don't have binoculars, but they started observing birds in their balcony terraces. And so many people have, after starting that activity, watching birds from their backyard, they later on, after 4-5 months, have gone and bought binoculars. So it's okay if you don't have a camera or binoculars. You can just start with some common birds that you're seeing from your home.
Ma'am, can you please send us the link in the chat box?
Which one?
This West Bengal
Yeah.
bird watching.
Yeah. Just give me a minute, and let me also.
So today, those who are joining this session, all of you are from Symbiosis? Anyone from outside Symbiosis? I can see a name, Dr. Sharvari Shukla. Are you a faculty in Symbiosis, ma'am? Okay. So any other question? Otherwise, we can end for now. Any questions, you can mail me later. You can connect with Mittal on Instagram. You can give your handle also, Mittal, Instagram handle. And even those who know that we have our Instagram handle, Symbiosis. So at biodiversity cell _ Symbiosis, that is our Instagram handle. So I think most of you know, but still I'll write.
So we don't have an Instagram handle yet. I think Suhail only posts. Anyways, I have a Facebook. BirdCount India has a Facebook page. So I'm just I just enter the link in the chat box.
How come you don't have Instagram page? Because nowadays, like all youngsters, they are on Instagram. Even biodiversity cell was not on Instagram, but students made me, make sure that, ma'am, you have to have biodiversity cell on Instagram.
Yeah, generally we don't have much going, and it's just 3 of us, Suhail, me, and Ashwin. So and at least both Suhail and me are not so much on social media. I have my own Instagram, but BirdCount India does not have it. We need somebody who regularly keeps updating.
Yes. It's a full-time responsibility. Because it's not like apna khud ka hai aise. So okay, I think that's it for today. Thanks, Mittal, and we can come to the end now. Sarpreet, you can take it ahead if no one has any more questions.
Sure. On behalf of the entire Biodiversity Cell and Symbiosis International University, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Ms. Mittal Gala for taking out time out of a busy schedule and enlightening us with her knowledgeable insights. The session was informative and gave us a deep understanding of the topic and also revealed some of the very interesting facts. I was personally amazed by the fact that even students and laymen can download the data from eBird and use it for their research work. And unknowingly or knowingly, by uploading pictures, we are even helping the scientists collect data. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sarpreet, and thank you so much, Shilpa. I had a wonderful time interacting with students of Symbiosis, and thank you, Dean sir. I don't know if he's here, but thank you so much, and I hope we see a lot more information and observations coming from your campus. And please reach out to me anytime, even if I don't answer immediately. Just leave a WhatsApp message, and I will respond to you. And look forward to having more sessions with you.
Yeah, thanks. So
now, and the way you described it in the beginning, that when I come to Pune, whenever I come, I want to visit the campus.
of course, you're most welcome. I always tell everyone who are from this community, please do come. And at the end, I really would like to, congratulate Biodiversity Cell in a way that we have been got selected for present a poster for your upcoming event. बर्ड मॉनिटर आपका एक सिंपोजियम है ना?
Yes. Oh, congratulations.
Yeah.
So glad to hear that.
Yes, yesterday only I got a mail that your proposal means form has got means it is approved. So Mittal, for the first time, Symbiosis Biodiversity Cell is going to do a presentation.
Wow. Wow.
But I'm so in a way scared how to make it now. Because I think we have lots of data, but I don't know how to put it, scientifically and but I'll get back to you and Sohail for this. And yes, you will see us, I think 17th March something.
Okay.
As a, let's see. So students, please help me to put all this data in a wonderful poster. This is our first ever poster presentation out of Symbiosis as it is. So let's get together for this work.
Sure.
Okay.
And one last thing before I end this call, because I really want students to think about it in this way also. So before I joined Bird Count India, I was working as a naturalist in Ranthambore National Park. I hardly used to go inside the forest with the guests, but the campus was so big, 11 acres campus, and again, just like you, we had multiple habitats, and for 3 years I regularly did monitoring of birds and putting it on eBird. In the 3 years, I was able to publish 2 papers in Scientific Journal of Indian Birds. So, if I just want to tell the students that your regular monitoring efforts in your campus can also result in coming up of interesting publications in nature journals and scientific journals. So keep up with that.
Yeah, thanks. Can you mail me your links of your papers? Those.
Yes, I'll do that. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Bye.
Okay.